Hey everybody, it's First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Here's your Tuesday vlog. We're going to talk about another storm system heading our way with more rain in the forecast Thursday into Friday. This is the third week in a row we've had a storm going into the end of the week. And remember, Mother Nature has no idea what day of the week it is. So it seems like it's always on the weekends. It's just the timing of everything right now. This pattern eventually will change and the timing could be another day of the week. But you could see our low pressure system developing back towards the Four Corners region. There it is in the water vapor loop. This is going to move to the east and it's going to pick up a ton of moisture. We talked about this El Nino pattern in my winter forecast, and really, sure enough, everything's kind of going exactly as we expected so far this winter. Here we are just a couple weeks into the season, and we've already had this active southern storm track with lots of storms coming across the southern part of the country. So you've seen this every weekend. Occasionally, they'll sync up with some cold air like we did, last weekend, or the weekend before, excuse me, when we had the winter storm, but a lot of these are just going to be rainstorms, and that's the thing about El Ninos. You typically have a wet, cool winter, and or mild, cool to mild, but you can sync these up with some cold air and get a big winter storm. But a lot of times you end up with these big rainstorms, which is what we're seeing right now. So let me show you how this thing's going to unfold here, because this could actually cause some significant flooding. Again, in parts of the Carolinas. You can see as we go towards the end of the week, this is Thursday night. So things really ramp up Thursday night. I've been getting a lot of questions about the timing of this. The day on Thursday will likely start dry, but as we go through the day, the rain chances will ramp up. And if you look at the heart of this thing, as we go into Thursday night, I'll stop this Thursday night. You can see that's when the heavy rain moves. And this is a pretty big storm here. Look at all the moisture getting pulled in here. And you see all this heavy rain in the Carolinas. And again, if the low forms right here, we're going to see that upslope flow develop again. So we're going to add to some of the crazy rainfall totals we've seen for the year here in the Carolinas. We go into early Friday. You can see the rain is still around, but it begins to break up a little bit as we go through the day on Friday. The low is going to be shifting off to the northeast, so we get into that northwest flow on the backside. And typically when we get that northwest flow, it starts drying things out east of the mountains, but this is really going to produce some heavy rain and some colder air in the mountains, and you can see it eventually changes to some snow in the mountains Friday night into Saturday. So good news for skiers going into the weekend. It looks like there could be some natural snow in the mountains and cold enough temperatures to make some snow, especially as we go into Saturday into Sunday. But you could see that's a pretty massive storm system as it moves through the area. I'll wind it back here, and you can see it a couple times. I'll go through there. And just to show you the area we're concerned about, this is that excessive rainfall outlook. The area in green is what we consider the 5 to 10% chance of seeing excessive rainfall or flash flood. You get into the yellow, that's more in the 10 to 15%. So low, medium threat right now for most of the Carolinas. And we're talking about the possibility of some significant rainfall, especially considering how wet everything is. If I take a look at the forecast here, real quickly, you can see some of the forecast totals through the weekend. Notice some of these totals in the mountains, 1 to 2 inches, especially in those eastern facing slopes, and 1 to 1.5 inches of rain across the Piedmont. Now, typically that doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you throw it on top of the fact that we've had rain for 3 weekends in a row and some of it heavy, the snow melt, everything is saturated. It's not going to take a lot to cause flooding. So there will be additional rainfall moving in with this system, and something to keep an eye on as we go into the weekend. The good news is I don't think it's going to wash out our weekend again. Remember last week it was mainly a Friday into Saturday system, and then it moved out for Sunday. This looks very similar. This is going to be more of a Thursday night into Friday system, and probably will be completely gone by Saturday and Sunday. So the weekend itself is not that bad. It's really the Thursday, Friday time frame that we're concerned about, because when you look at this, this is going into the weekend. This is Friday night into Saturday morning, and by Saturday morning it looks like most of this stuff starts to clear out as the cold air moves in. So not all bad, but again, more rain. Go figure. When you know it. Also, a quick note on a lot of the social media buzz I'm seeing about the polar vortex. Here's the thing. A lot of the stuff you're seeing is kind of just hype. The polar vortex is around every single year. The thing that's going on right now, the polar vortex might be weakening, which happens occasionally during the winter months, and it causes cold air to spill out of the Arctic region. But here's the thing about the polar vortex, and I'm going to show you real quickly what I'm talking about here. The polar vortex is a semi-permanent area of low pressure over the polar regions. Now what happens is when the polar vortex weakens, it's kind of, think of it like a big fence like this. When it weakens, and this happens when the stratosphere warms, it causes cold air to spill south. Now, what you don't see in a lot of these articles is that we always don't know where the cold air is going to spill. It's, like water on a table. This is cold air sitting on top of a globe. So what happens is sometimes the cold air spills into Europe, spills into Asia, spills into Canada, spills into the US, spills into the Atlantic, spills into the Pacific. So it's going to go somewhere. We know it's going to spill south. The thing you don't see in these articles is like people think, oh, it's coming our way. Not necessarily. It could go over into Europe or Asia as well. And if I look at the long-range temperature forecast, you could see, yeah, the polar vortex does weaken, but look at the mother load of cold air seems to be going into Europe and Asia right now. Some does come down into the United States, into the North America, but not so much into the United States. I'll show you long term. I'm going to go out into the future here, and this is going out past Christmas here. We'll go way out into the future here, past Christmas into the 28th, 29th time frame. Notice all this cold air that's spilling into Canada. So this is after Christmas. This is below zero temperatures into Canada. Some comes down into the northern U.S., but notice the East Coast, it's not really heading our way, at least in the next, 7 to 14 days. So there's no imminent cold air outbreak heading our way between now and the 28th of December. So a lot of what you're seeing is just kind of a long-term forecasting trend that we look at to see if cold air is going to spill south. But we'll see if this unfolds. Usually it's a 2-week delay from the stratospheric warming event that we see. So 2 weeks from that event, we typically see cold air come south. It could come into the U.S., could come just into Canada, could go into Europe. These are things we don't really know where it's gonna dump down the cold air, but we will know as we get closer to the event. But right now, it's something way out in the future and nothing imminent. So I saw that floating around on social media today and people asking me about it. So just rest easy. There's no imminent cold snap. In fact, if anything, our pattern looks really mild, at least through Christmas. We've got 7 to 10 days of somewhat mildish weather before we maybe see a turn to colder. So have a great Tuesday, everybody. I'll post updates throughout the week as the rain heads our way.